Left, right, out. It's May 3rd. Mark this day as the day of infamy. I want to talk more economics because there's more stuff that's coming out. A lot of interesting things that are happening, and the Fed's in their 2 day meeting right now, and everybody's expecting certain things. But the big story now. And then also Nancy Pelosi's over in Ukraine, which I got my own theory on what's going to happen. I'm going to make a prediction about what's going to go on in Russia, Ukraine, in Ukraine with regards to Russia by probably the end of the month. But first, so there's a leaked document or a leaking of a ruling from the Supreme Court, which is striking down Roe versus Wade, and of course the hilarity of feminine Nazi liberals are in full force. It's incredible how they think the world's going to end over this. God forbid you protect individual rights and the rights of another human being. But that's not what this does. What it does is it's putting the power back to the states when it comes to this issue, which I have my own thoughts on that. Or my own thoughts on the issue itself, which are not relevant. They are relevant, but they're not relevant in regards to this. This is just striking down really horrible decision. Basically they were during this it was legislating from the bench at an apex level. So all it does is it puts it back down to the state at a state level. So if you live in New York and you want to go get your abortion, more than likely you're going to be able to go do that. You can go kill babies if you want. Or if you live in California, more than likely you're still going to be able to go do all the same stuff, if not more so now. I don't know. I was saying maybe you should extend the abortion term to 360 months after birth. Maybe we should have abortions that long. But when you go to these other states like I don't know, where any of the conservative states, more than likely, or red states, more than likely, you're probably not going to have the ability to off your kid before he's born. So it's not the end of abortion. It is just merely democratizing it in a sense. It's like we're going to see the 50 different experiments with regards to this type of policy. So it's the right decision. It's a good decision. It is in line, I guess, more constitutionally to strike this thing down. It was a horrible decision. It's not based off any real legislation. It was just a decision, which is the epitome of legislating from the bench. But anyway, so you can go look at the hilarity that is these liberals, these pink-haired, overweight chicks that are complaining about this as if I guess there are people sleeping with them. I don't know. It's crazy what people are doing nowadays, but there's a lot of weird looking chicks out there. I got a bad hair day, but anyway, it's got a haircut and it still looks not that great. But anyway, these chicks are out there and they're constantly referencing this Handmaid's Tale, and I'm like, well, what in the hell are you talking about? Apparently, it's a Netflix series. Like, that is your reference, your culture, your reference to this, in their terms, diabolical decision. It's some whatever series on Netflix that's recent. It's like, yeah, I get it. You got a Netflix subscription, and this is the depth of your knowledge of anything kind of oppression when it comes to women is a reference to this Handmaid's Tale. It's like, come on, people. But anyway, it's pretty hilarious what the reaction is to this, their hyperbolic reaction. And the only thing is like, here's the other thing. So I'm looking at this leak. I'm like, well, are they going to investigate it to the extent that they did Jan 6? Because the leak is a big deal, just like in an intelligence community. But this is like an esteemed institution, the Supreme Court, and it relies on the ability to converse with one another, with the staffers that are there, and to exchange ideas without these things getting leaked out to the public. I mean, we don't want undue pressure. So in my opinion, if I'm an investigator, because I guess Judge Roberts they're gonna push for an investigation here. If I'm an investigator, the first thing I'm looking at is they're not supposed to be partisan, but the liberal justices on the court and their staffers, I'm going through them. They're the first ones. If I have to take priority, I'm going through them, because more than likely, who has the incentive to leak something like that would be these staffers and some kind of, once they see this opinion coming through, the last ditch effort to gain public support in order to influence the court. To me, that's even more so than old ladies and people walking through the Capitol building on Jan 6. So are we going to have an investigation like Jan 6? Are people going to get thrown indefinitely into detention without due process? Are they going to have their assets seized? Are they, I mean, I doubt it, but I mean, there should be an investigation. I don't want any of that other stuff to happen, but the ramifications of this leak and the peaceful protests that are going to end up happening across the country, more likely, which there are some gatherings that are happening outside the Supreme Court as we speak, as of last night, which is a big question where these people crawl out from under and they don't have, I guess they don't work. But anyway, let's go into the Russia thing. So I'm going to make this prediction. So like I've said, I counter the Western media when it comes to the Russian propaganda. Pretty much you've been lied to this whole time. And to me, the Russians are still on track for whatever they're going to do. In fact, I believe their feinting operation, they're striking in the Western Ukraine, going after Kiev, was, I've said before, it was in order to stave off a consolidation of forces that could possibly save forces they have surrounded. They don't want any reinforcements there. So these are all operations to do that. And also now you're talking about striking certain targets in Western Ukraine in order to keep arms from getting to the people that, they're trying to take out on the eastern part of it. But you have Mariupol almost completely under control. There's a couple thousand left Azov troops that are in that steel mill. But here's my thoughts on it. So by the end of the month, I'm thinking that what's going to happen is the real agenda, what Putin has already spelled out, besides the whole denazification thing, was to liberate those republics that they declared their independence. It was to make sure that they had that Ukraine couldn't attack them, and also to stop Ukraine from joining NATO. But anyway, the primary mission, that initial objective, is the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, was to militarily help them out and to provide some level of security, recognize them as independent states. They'll go in there, or they're already there. They will declare those places officially independent, which they, I guess, essentially already have, but they'll declare victory by the end of the month. One of them has already said that they would like to become part of the Russian Federation. I see that happening with both. That will enable a direct land bridge into Crimea, so linking Crimea up with the main Russian state. And that will be pretty much the end of the offensive style war. And then, if anything, it'll be more defensively oriented and more solidifying borders or whatnot. In my opinion, that's what I think that what's going to happen with the rest of the Russian thing. I think that the military offensive operations for Russia has been pretty much fully accomplished, and they're just mopping up now. And the land masses that they have taken over, now it's just a form of solidifying control, complete control, reestablishing services in governments and local governments, and then also now shoring up defensive elements and stationing, defensive arms around there for any kind of counteroffensive the Ukrainians think they can pull off. But because they are still getting weapons from the West, instead of us not giving them weapons and working towards peace, we decide to waste more of our money while we're experiencing the greatest price increases that this country has ever seen. We're going to continue trying to expand the money supply, or if anything, willing to pay a greater cost to borrow existing money in order to give them weapons and to enrich arms manufacturers. So it's pretty much insanity. The whole government's insanity at this point. Let's look at here. The markets were up today slightly. Get back to the markets thing. Here's the thing. The Fed, they're going to come out. They're going to have the half point. That's what I'm saying. Half point. They should be going to a point. Like they should 100 basis point or 100. They need to go to one whole full percentage to bring it up to 1.25. They need to do it like immediately. They needed to do it yesterday. They needed to do it like probably a year ago. They needed to do it a long time ago. They actually need to go further than that, but I'm just saying that within the realm of possibility, that's where they should be. But they're going to do the half point, and I'm sure they're going to justify it because of uncertainty in various markets and the war. They can justify just doing half a point. They're going to talk about their QT. Now, QT was supposed to be almost, I think it was 85 billion a month. I'd expect them just to keep that and see where things lay. I mean, you can see on their balance sheet is leveling off. I think it actually went down 16 billion, which is nothing. So to me, that's leveled off. You're looking at the 10 years. It hit 3% the other day. We're solidly in the high 2.8s, 2.9s. It will pop over 3%. And especially when you think about the fact that, the Fed funds rate will be going up here in the next couple of days. 2, QT will start, so the Fed will be out of the market essentially. They'll be selling into the market, unless they're just going to we'll see what Powell says he's going to do with that. But essentially, I don't think there's 85 billion a month that they can just roll off. And even if they roll off, that's contractionary as well. But they might be selling into the market with some of these securities. So that coupled to that, you have it's ripe for us to be solidly over 3%. And I've mentioned this before, is once you get interest rates in the credit markets that high, when the economy is used to it being so low, against what free market principles would dictate, you have companies that are financing themselves at such low interest rates and rely on that low interest rate in order just to maintain operations. That you're going to have, this is going to be a devastating blow to the markets, and then the Fed will have to ride back in on their white horse instead of letting a real correction. We need a real correction. We need some of these companies to go out of business. The difference in COVID, we had a lot of there was a lot of malinvestment even in them, but then you also had it was non-discriminatory business closings, right? You had a lot of viable companies that had to close, and they're not back. But now we have a lot of money going into other companies that are just completely nonsensical, non-performing assets, really, like a Robinhood or whatnot. And these companies are sucking up capital out of the market that legitimate companies could utilize, in companies that could make a profit. So we've had a lot of government intervention. We've had a lot of skewing of the market. But this is where we're at. So I've played, like I think I said, I rolled up my. I don't know if I had a video before that. I know I told you guys that I closed out some of my short. They're like synthetic short positions. I say synthetic because they're not real short positions. They're just a way to play short. They're options. So I closed out totally Friday, and I got back in as of yesterday. Short again, but just a further contract out. So I did all right on those other ones, enough to like I said, make a living or help make a living. And then these ones, hopefully, once these decisions, I'm almost certain they'll be making money again. And then of course I have some volatility stuff. And I sold some contracts. Actually, I sold some calls against it just to get some income off of that. But then, volatility is spiking. I just don't want to get called out of those because I want to keep them, because once we have like a capitulation moment, those things will rocket. And then that's when you want to get out of that. But I'm holding tight. Like I said, now I'm building that short position a little bit more, or synthetic short position. Or type of synthetic short position. Pretty much playing options on this thing on indexes. So we're on the S&P specifically. But anyway, so I'm still playing that, and hopefully we'll hit a big because what's the one saying? I'll leave you with this. I'm gonna keep this on 20 minutes, but they always say don't fight the Fed, right? And I've fought the Fed and I've lost a lot of money, like saying, hey, they need to do this, they need to do that, and when they're loose, and everything goes up. Everything goes up because it's inflationary. It's not a real economic growth they're stimulating, and there's no real free market there. But when they're also contracting, you got to play the same way. You can't fight them. You can't be constantly bullish when they're contracting the money supply, when they're raising rates and making it harder for non-viable businesses to exist. So you're going to have some kind of contraction. Now we had the negative GDP number. I'd imagine we're going to have another one. I would say that negative GDP number is probably worse than what they report because they use a deflator on that, and the deflator is also a skewed number. So it's just one of those deals. Now we can go into some other things too. Now that we're at it, I'll just leave that topic real quick and then I'll end this. But we're having, excuse me, they keep talking about food shortages, which we've had already through this, even COVID or more so recently. Food shortages in certain things like pastas, like meats. I can think of some other things. It's just so commonplace now, which it shouldn't be in America, but it is now that I kind of forget. Like I'm like, oh well, I'm just gonna grab an extra pasta when they actually stock it. But like weird things, like I remember there's a few, like probably a month where the pasta shelves like at Walmart were just completely gone, and that's multiple WalMarts across multiple states. Then they're like out of weird things like fettuccine noodles, and then you go try to get hamburger, and the hamburger one it's overpriced, and then there is none. There's no like just basic hamburger stuff, or they're completely out of There's certain vegetables they're completely out of that you kind of forget about until you go look for them, right? And granted, you can live without them, but that's not America. America's about innovation, abundance, free markets are supposed to be, and we're used to having these things where that's where people like to want to come here. That's because we have this abundance. And yeah, first world problem. That's one of the worst excuses ever. That I hate that because we're not supposed to be. We can't complain about this because this is a standard of living that's been decreasing over time, and we should be increasing our standard of living, and we should be setting the example for the world of like how a country can not only, you know, enshrine people's individual rights, but allow them to make a living. And we should be the bastion of hope, of freedom, and whatnot. But we're not. But anyway, so there's shortages in that. There's shortages still in oil and oil derivative products, especially diesel. You look at diesel prices. Diesel prices are they're all-time high, off the wall. I mean, that like last week, I think there was a 72-hour period where the diesel price where I was at was up like over almost 70 cents. The most incredible price increase I've ever seen. But that diesel prices, especially diesel prices, extend far-reaching throughout the economy, even if you have an electric vehicle, because a lot of electricity is driven. There's diesel that's involved in the production of that electricity, some form or another. In the production line of that electricity, there's diesel involved. There's diesel involved in getting all the products and produce everywhere. I mean, I think 90-something% of all freight is somehow, whether it be train or vehicle, is driven through like diesel. And you think about a big 18-wheeler loaded, it's getting granted it sucks, it's in single digits of miles per gallon, and you just think about the cost increases of that when diesel's over $5-something a barrel, or $5-something a gallon. But then we look at diesel. I always said diesel is a great I guess like a bridge fuel to renewable energies getting off of oil, because we can synthetically make diesel out of various byproducts, renewable diesel and stuff. So if anything, we want to encourage diesel use instead of gasoline if you're an environmentalist, in order to eventually get us to wherever they want us to go. But anyway, diesel's hurting. I drive a diesel truck, even though it's an eco diesel, it gets good mileage. It's still it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous paying when I look at it, because sometimes I used to just put like, let's throw $10 in there, and you get enough to drive around for like a week, right? With that eco diesel, 30 miles a gallon almost. But now you throw $10 and you get like 1.8 something, 1.9 gallons, and you're like, oh man, this really sucks. This type goes into your budget. It's going to hit everybody. I can't believe people are still out spending at this point, because I know that it's affecting people. I know it's affecting the poor people the most. And interesting article on Zero Hedge about food bank demand, and how these food prices are really affecting, especially people that the poorer among us, which is the most vulnerable in this kind of inflationary environment. A lot of us can cut various things out of our budgets in order to just still at least put food on the table and get around. But some people are super strapped, whether they're there for themselves or not, but they shouldn't be going through this shouldn't be what's happening in America. They should be on their own devices, whether they fail on their own devices or succeed on their own devices, and it shouldn't be a monetary issue that's destroying them. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there. 20 minutes. I'm going to get out of here. Watch the Fed. I'll probably have another one tomorrow, but because I think tomorrow's the last day of the Fed meeting. I think so. Anyway, peace.